Okay, thank you. Sorry, my Chinese is really bad. 我的中文说的不好，所以今天我们说英文。So hopefully that didn't confuse the translation that we've got. Hope it's all working for you.
Okay.
And let me know if you can hear me okay. I'm not sure. Can they react or anything? Like give a thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Okay, that's good. That's good. All right, so let's begin. First, lots of thumbs, thanks. First, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time out to attend this presentation. I'd also like to thank Jem Horn and Ray for inviting me to give this presentation. I appreciate the support from Jem Horn and the kindness that in them having me here today. For today's talk, I'll be presenting about the evolution of Neon Doctrine's production and how we use it to help boost the studios that we work with, as well as how it has helped boost the mindset of some of our partners that we've been working with too. So as with all presentations, I'd like to first start with introductions. I'm going to introduce who Neon Doctrine is. I'll also talk about who I am and share a little bit about my experience and background. So at Neon Doctrine, we are passionate about bringing games from Taiwan and Southeast Asia to the rest of the world. We work with diverse and unique creators who offer unique and diverse experiences. We have a huge and loyal following of players from all around the world who are always looking for something different, something authentic, and that's what we deliver to them. Neon Doctrine was established in May 14th, 2014. Although our head office is based in Ireland, we consider ourselves to be a Taiwan-based company. Most of our employees are Taiwanese, and we have about 34 people in our team, roughly, worldwide. We're aiming to grow that, hopefully, to about 50 or 60 by 2025, fingers crossed. We are a hybrid remote-first company. In the office, we mainly speak Chinese, traditional Chinese, and English. But we also have people who can speak French, Japanese, Ukrainian, and other languages. We have people from all over the world, and we embrace that diversity. We offer a range of benefits and support to our partners, including localization, PR, marketing, development, production, and funding. I'm super proud of Neon Doctrine and what we have been bringing to the market, and I think we are only scratching the surface of our true potential. Not just for us, but also for our partners that we collaborate with. We have a lot of exciting news coming soon, so stay tuned. And now that you know a bit more about Neon Doctrine, let me introduce myself. So I've been working in the games industry for almost 2 decades, and I've co-founded 2 companies, Neon Doctrine being my second, and contributed to some of the most successful AAA game franchises. Some of the games I have been credited on are most recently Final Fantasy XVI, Bloodborne, Uncharted 3, Tomb Raider, Horizon Zero Dawn, Monster Hunter World, and many more. In total, I've worked on over 50 games, over 50 games, and collaborated with with AAA studios from Japan, USA, UK, Germany, Poland, and other countries. I started out as a 3D artist and level designer, and then moved into management roles such as producer, studio art director, and now at Neon Doctrine, I'm the head of development and production. So my main responsibility is to empower and mentor our internal and external teams for sustainable success. What I love most about creating games what I love about creating games is the creative process of crafting immersive worlds for players to explore. I feel very rewarded when I see players playing our games, enjoying and engaging in the games that I've helped to participate in. So that's just a real passion of mine. All right. Origins. So now that we've done with introductions, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the origins of Neon Doctrine's ability to offer production and development support to some of our partners around the world. Before I co-founded Neon Doctrine, I founded a studio called Playarium in Taipei in 2015. Our main focus was to offer technical art and production services for AAA studios. We were a boutique studio, and we aimed to provide efficiency and problem-solving support. Rather than just large numbers of workers, we wanted to keep the industry more sustainable and prevent the costs from skyrocketing. We want to make sure it was easier for smaller teams and newcomers and established ones to keep doing what they love. We were always friends with another indie, a company that started out with publishing games in 2014. Their first game was the amazing Lost Castle, and then they expanded to offer PR and marketing support around 2015. And then around about late October 2021, we had this crazy idea to, have our teams kind of, merge together and our studios and cultures and create an expanded offering to our partners. And that's how Neon Doctrine was born. Bringing together two teams to work together has its challenges. And I'd like to share some of the challenges that we faced both internally and externally. So yeah, I was saying merging teams together was not an easy task. We faced many challenges, both internally and externally, but we also saw it as an opportunity to grow and improve ourselves and our services. Internally, we had to respect and preserve the culture of each studio while also finding a common ground for collaboration. We had to learn from each other and adapt to the new environment. We had to choose the best tools and workflows and best practices that would suit our needs and goals. We had to communicate effectively and transparently with each other. Externally, we had to maintain and strengthen our relationships with our partners. We had to reassure them that, hey, we would still provide them with the same or better level of support and quality. And we had to overcome a lot of doubts and fears from both sides. So how did we do it? How did we merge two studios successfully? Well, I can't say that there's one size that fits all answer, but I can share with you our journey and our achievements. One of the main challenges we faced was the culture clash between the two studios and teams. We realized that we didn't have a clear definition of what our original cultures were or what we wanted them to be. We had different perceptions and expectations of how we should work and behave. So we decided to sit down and redefine our culture together. We agreed on our core values, our vision, our mission, and our goals. We communicated them clearly and consistently with everyone. We made sure that everyone felt a part of the new culture, not just a visitor. We celebrated our diversity and learned from each other. We became, one team, Neon Doctrine. Another challenge we faced was the uncertainty from our partners. They were quite rightly concerned that the merger could affect the quality and support of our services. They wondered if we could still be the same reliable and trustworthy partners that they knew. So we decided to sit down and reassure them. We explained to them why we combined and what benefits it would bring to them. We showed them that we were not losing anything, but gaining more resources, more abilities, and more expertise. We demonstrated that we were still committed to delivering the best games from Taiwan and Southeast Asia. We strengthened our relationship and earned their trust. So how did we manage these challenges in a bit more granular level? We used a mental model, which I love. It's called FSNPA, which stands for forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. It was developed by the psychologist Bruce Tuckman in 1965, and it describes the stages that teams go through when they work together. And every team kind of goes through this in one way or another. Forming, this is when the team is formed and people are unsure about each other and their roles. They're anxious, they're nervous, excited, and they just need a little bit of direction. Storming, which happens a lot, this is when the team faces conflicts and friction. People don't trust each other, they clash with each other, they challenge the leadership, and they want clarity about their purpose. Norming, this is when the team starts to resolve their differences. They appreciate each other, they respect the leadership, they communicate better, and they feel comfortable asking for help or giving feedback when needed. Performing, this is when the team reaches its full potential. They work smoothly with each other, they finish each other's sentences, or as I like to say, sandwiches. They have clear and flexible roles and responsibilities, and they support each other beyond their usual tasks. And adjourning, well, this is when the team has finished the project, and they're moving on to another one. They celebrate their achievements and reflect on what they learned, say goodbye to each other, and maybe when they come back again as a team, they don't need to go through the storming phase, they get straight to the norming phase. We use this model to guide us through the process. We identified which stage we were in, what challenges we faced, what actions we needed to take, and what outcomes we expected. We use this model not only for our internal teams, but also for our external partners. We help them understand where we were in the process, what changes we were making, what benefits they would get, and what feedback they could give. This model is still very relevant today for any team or any studio that wants to work effectively together. It provides a really good framework that can help you move your team from one stage to another stage, especially from the forming and storming stages to norming and performing stages. It helps you keep your team in a high performance state for as long as possible. Highly recommend it to you if you're facing these kind of challenges within your teams. Okay, in the first part of this talk, I was just sharing with you about some of the soft skills and that we developed and the challenges that we faced in our studio. Now I'm going to talk about the technical skills and the digital content creation tools that we use with our teams and partners. We use a wide range of digital content creation tools. We use Maya a lot. We do a lot of procedural asset creation. For modeling and texturing of the procedural assets, we use Houdini and Substance 3D Designer primarily. We do use other applications like Unreal, a little bit of Blender for procedural asset creation too. We quite frequently bounce between Maya and other applications. We primarily use Unreal Engine, but with smaller partners, they often tend to use Unity. For bigger studios that we work with their proprietary technology or with Unreal Engine and mainly Maya. We're also using ZBrush, Photoshop, Motion Builder, Marvelous Designer. Purif is nice. It's good for collecting references and superimposing that on top of the digital content creation applications. But yeah, this is just a short list of some of the tools that we use. For asset management and version control, for a lot of the bigger studios, we do use Perforce, and for code, we use Git. We are platform agnostic for most of our titles we develop for. We release on pretty much most of the major platforms. For PC specifically, we use Steam, and we consider Steam our typical lead platform. We've also developed for Epic Game Store. We do have a strong presence on console, for example, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation, and we've only just started to place some of our content on mobile as well, starting with iOS. In the future, we do hope to do Android in the future, but we want to be very careful about how we're scaling up. So as you can see, creating digital content for games is not a simple task. We have to use many different tools, platforms, and processes to make our products and services. Luckily, our team has a lot of experience in building workflows from scratch, implementing them, and managing them. I've been leading this effort as I have a lot of background in game development for various platforms and with different culturally diverse teams. I've been looking at how to make our teams work well together, both technically and creatively. I've also been kind of making sure that we communicate effectively between our different departments, at least starting with our development and production departments and then outwards. And of course, ensuring a good handoff between one another. We want to have a smooth and transparent process from start to finish. Our workflow is designed to give our teams autonomy and ownership and input so they can provide their ideas and suggestions. We want everyone to feel involved and empowered in the creative process. This is not something that we've found that everyone is used to, so we do find that we have to train and support new team members in getting used to this process. We also know that game development is very challenging and an iterative process, meaning that you need to make a lot of updates and polish and changes. So we have to try many different ideas and test them until we find the best ones. So we have to polish our products until they are perfect. We use what I like to call design thinking approach to generate ideas and then filter them. We don't settle for the first thing that comes to mind. We do try to be flexible and adaptable to change. Our workflow supports this kind of approach. All right, so, okay, so now I'm going to share with you some of the projects that our team has been involved in. These projects showcase the results of applying our best practices and methods. I'll also try to tell you what we use, the different tools and techniques to achieve our goals without violating, obviously, some of our NDAs that are in place. And yeah, let's begin with one of the first projects. So we're credited on Resident Evil 4 Remake. I'm credited as an art director on that project. Of course, it's done by hundreds of people around the world. So we're one of the studios that got to contribute to this. We contributed to building out world-class next-gen characters, modeling and texturing character FACS facial rigs. So that's FACS. That is a facial actual coding system. It's basically a way to use joint-based rigs to power and drive facial expressions. We were also charged with finding the actors and models for key characters and NPCs to be used as a basis for photogrammetry-based workflows, negotiating the contract, schedules, organizing the scanning sessions, advising our partner, giving input about how we can improve the process. This was done during COVID, so when you see the credits, it's actually credited as Plarium, but the core team at Neon Doctrine is made up. Well, I say the core team. A lot of the people at Neon Doctrine is still come from the Plarium side, but please consider us as Neon Doctrine. If you're not familiar with Resident Evil 4 Remake, this character is Ashley. This is one of the characters that we worked on for the face and facial rigs. We primarily used Maya for the modeling and retopology and rigging. And we also use ZBrush as well for some of the high poly, kind of adding in a bit more details. We also contributed to Kruger. He's another main character, also a boss character that you fight. For texturing, we primarily used Substance Painter and Substance Designer, so it was pretty procedural. We also did some work on Hannigan. This is Hannigan, and this project was also using a lot of proprietary tools and engine from the client and ourselves that was involved in the pipeline. So this is a trailer from the game. I won't play the whole thing, and but you should be able to spot some of the characters that we've seen in the game. Actually, how many of you have played this game? Maybe you could just give me a thumbs up. See if you're still with us.
You're here looking for someone?
No, I guess no one. It's too small.
Maybe. Some missing señorita.
You got one thumbs up. That's great.
Ashley, where are you?
All right, nice. More people, great. Well, if you haven't, definitely go pick up the game.
Requires
cleansing. All right, we'll move on. You can watch the rest of the trailer on YouTube. Here's some more. I'm going to show you some more kind of character head work that we've done. Again, this is primarily done with Maya. What you're seeing is taken from the Maya viewport. The rigging is also done in Maya, and we used Substance Designer and Substance Painter for the textures. I hope the movie is playing smoothly for you guys out there. It might be, and I hope it's not too kind of pixelated. But anyway, here's some more character work. Again, this is all kind of taking real time from the viewport, just rendered out as a movie. And another one, pretty proud of the characters. I would say that they're pretty cinematic in what we do. Again, use a lot of Maya on this. Okay, this particular piece of work is something that we use a lot in our internal promotions and at game shows. I personally love this one. I use it a lot as my virtual backgrounds. And it was created with a combination of Maya and Photoshop, ZBrush, Substance Designer, bit of Blender, and Substance Painter. Really proud of the artist who worked with me on this one. He did an excellent job. So kudos to him. Also Taiwanese. So for this, I said that we used Maya for modeling, and for the shader, we used Blender for the look development. This is because we were trying to create a real-time shader that had a sketch-like anime feel to it, but we had specific requirements, or I had specific requirements about what we were trying to achieve and what we're trying to go for. So for example, I'm not sure if you can see it on your screens. I really want to capture some of the sketch-like quality where the surface kind of undulates in the geometry. So here where you see this kind of nice, kind of subtle kind of sketches, right? It's all real time. It's not painted, nothing is painted into the texture here. It's all kind of real time. So we were really trying to get these, you know, if you're an artist and you have this 2D and you're drawing, we really want to capture those kind of subtle expressions like in the surface. So there's ways that we identified that we could achieve that using the power of the model and then the shader. We did try to play around with Blender's grease pencil a lot on this, but then we found that we could achieve something a little bit more powerful and efficient using the custom shader. For the Photoshop part, we use this just to help us kind of visualize and tweak and fine-tune the values that we want to achieve on certain parts of the object. We didn't want to lose certain objects in the scene, so we were trying to really control the values, you know, that were assigned. And actually, we actually assigned these values on the geometry inside Maya as vertex colors. And so we could just play with that inside the Maya viewport to kind of, you know, see if we were happy with that. And then we kind of put it into Photoshop a little bit, just to tweak a few things. And these values then fed back into, you know, when we started to kind of give it some color. And actually the color was actually done as vertex colors inside Maya. And then here, this is just showing like, hey, when we had the values, we started to just play around with different settings for the values and just really try to experiment with what works and what pops, and just making sure there's enough separation between the background, midground, foreground characters as well. So back to AAA. We also contributed to Street Fighter 6. We contributed to world building by providing visual design, planning, layout, asset creation. We used the RE engine as well, proprietary to the client. And we also integrated those assets and laid them out and delivered them back to Capcom. Capcom initially gave us base kind of gray boxes to work from, but we took those to generate detailed production briefs for our team, concepts, and we took that all the way through to completion. This is one of the shots from in-game. This is the China stage. And we used Maya predominantly for the modeling, UV, a little bit of Blender, Substance Painter for texturing, Substance Painter and Substance 3D Designer for texturing, and of course ZBrush for some high poly stuff and some proprietary tools and engine. This is the Russia stage we also worked on. And just an example of what we do. We took some of the kind of gray boxes provided to us, and then our team would kind of look at that, look at the kind of feeling that Capcom wanted us to go for, the key art, and then we would create detailed concepts. So this concept you're seeing is actually done by our team in Taiwan. The asset creation is done in Maya, modeling, UV, texturing, and all the layout. Here's some more. We did a lot. I actually don't remember how many we did, but it was worked on quite a few of the fighting stages. I think 6 of them: France, Japan, Russia, China, and then we also did this is the Japan fighting stage, and we also did open world as well. And yeah, we did a huge section of one of the open worlds. It's a really big environment, probably one of the biggest we've ever worked on. Yeah. Okay, so we also do a lot of stylized work as well. This particular example you're seeing is done purely in Substance 3D Designer. It is a stylized set of wood planks. Here's another example. And it's generating, you probably can see that it's generating geometry here. So we also generate displacement maps. It's the same material again. And we have a couple of presets. You can create a lot of different options and variations. But what I love about the Substance 3D Designer is the ability to generate procedural materials that can have displacement on them, which nowadays what we're doing is we're converting them into high poly geometry, and then we're importing them into Unreal Engine 5 as nanite meshes, which is great. It's a game changer because it means we don't have to do low poly. We're still fine-tuning that process, but I think that we're going to see a lot more of that in the future. Yeah, sorry, this is the same material again, but this time it's taken directly from the Substance 3D Designer viewport, and it's going to go through like quite a few of the parameters, and you can see, you hopefully can see some of the parameters that we have exposed. It's pretty in-depth in the way that you can customize it and in the way that you can change the patterns, and also even the colors, the polish, the finish. The colors and where you can adjust the colors is really, really granular. So with this one material, we can create quite a lot of unique variations. I think it's we can create like in the 50s, maybe even hundreds of variations. Again, I'm super proud of the artist that worked with me on this, also Taiwanese. He's done a fantastic job. And I'm super happy that we can, share this. This is actually the first time that people are seeing this publicly. So you guys are really lucky here. Another procedural material. Again, there's hundreds of parameters. I hope you're not feeling hungry. If you're not, it's probably gonna make you hungry. Same material again. It can generate a displacement map. So again, you're seeing that it's generating height maps as well and geometry. This is the exact same material. I'm gonna show you a breakdown soon. But you can see all the geometry that it's creating as well. So this here is a breakdown of the same material. You can see a bit more detail about how it's broken down and the different variations that you can create. This is what I'm showing you now is it's the same material, but this time inside Maya, because I just want to show, like, we do use Maya a lot. We do integrate other tools with Maya. Let me just move that out of the way. And it's sped up, so it's pretty quick. I think it's sped up like maybe 5 or 10 times. But the reason why I'm just pointing out that it's sped up is that when you see the material change and as we start to slide the options, it's actually pretty quick, so you don't have to go in and start to repaint again. And in the viewport, what you're seeing is it's the Substance Designer node being used directly inside Maya. It's using the kind of Arnold viewer, or you can also use the Viewpoint 2.0 viewer as well. And hopefully you can see all of the parameters there and all the colors that it can generate. Again, this is done with our Taiwan team. I'm very proud of this artist. I'm saying I'm proud of all my artists, right? But I'm super happy with them and their quality and what they can achieve. I'm gonna move on because this just kind of, it's endless, the options that you can create. For this one, it's 90% procedural. You'll notice that on the paper there, you can see some sketches, writing, and on the post-it notes, that's where it's kind of been hand done inside Substance 3D Designer. And this is a close-up the same material. And you'll probably notice in some places, you can see a little bit of stretching that's created by Substance 3D Designer. And that's just simply because of the limitation in Substance 3D Designer to when you're creating height maps, there's just a limitation on that. I would really hope that Substance 3D Designer implements vector displacement map. I did ask them for this a long time ago, but if we can get that in there, I think that would solve the problems that you get with stretching. And here's a breakdown of that same material, so you can just see how it kind of comes together. All of the Wacom placements, and this is not a product placement. Sorry, they're not giving me any money for this, but all of this is all done directly inside Substance 3D Designer. It's not modeled, it's all procedural texture. And same thing again, this is taken directly from the Maya viewport. Same as the previous one, it is sped up about kind of like 5 to 10 times. And what we'll do is we'll play around with a few parameters. I'm not sure if you can read some of the stuff that's on the parameters there. You can see things like paper amount, eraser crumbs, dirt, color of the paper. And I mentioned before that it was like only 90% procedural. So what the drawings that you're seeing on the paper, that's the one that is kind of like hand-on. It's like an image that's kind of placed in. And if you see it on the poster notes, also similar as well. So it's really, really powerful. I'm gonna kind of jump through a little bit. Oh, it's almost there. Okay, we'll let it play through a little bit as well, so you can see it. Again, Taiwan team, they've done an excellent job. This was not done for any game, by the way. So this one and the previous one, that was just more for our internal portfolio. Actually, it was more used. I used this for training up some of the artists, just to push their skills. So, it turned out really, really well. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So, some of the stuff I showed you before was like for bigger teams and internal kind of projects. The next thing I'm going to show you is how the process looks like and how we're using Maya for smaller teams. So this 3D character was created in a combination of Maya and ZBrush. And actually, for the texturing of this, we were trying to procedurally automate the assignment of the textures to the character. So each of the characters for this particular project has a material ID. And when you place the Substance 3D Designer SBSAR file on that character, it would automatically generate the correct kind of material for the character. The reason why we did that was because this was a very small kind of like small team. You could say the word indie, and they needed to be able to have variations and not have to recreate the textures again, so they could just make it themselves. So this breakdown movie that you're seeing is taken directly from the engine. Actually, it's Unreal Engine. And you can see like the lighting now like changing. For this project, each character was about a maximum of 16,000 to 17,000 tries. So that's 17. Shichiwan, I hope I said that right. That's about 8,000 to 9,000 polys. So it's pretty low poly because it was designed to run on kind of low-end PCs and PlayStation 4 at that time. Here's another character. This particular one is just over 8,000 or 9,000 polys. So about 18,000 tries. It's a little bit more than the last one because this character has equipment on his back, and that equipment needs to be able to animate. So we have to kind of balance, making something that's low poly and can be animated in a nice way. We'll kind of jump to the part where it gets animated so you can see how that looks. And you can see the topology as well. Okay, so let me get to the, oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, so yeah, so this is what I mean, right? Like on the back, it needed to be able to kind of like animate. And you can see, oh yeah, I said it was like 18,000 tries. It's actually just under 16,000. So it's actually a little bit lower, which is pretty good. Okay, let's move on. So I'm gonna start to wrap up the presentation a little bit now. And some of you might be wondering, why are we still using Maya when, many studios are switching to Blender or other tools? A lot of smaller studios I notice are using Blender. I mean, the answer is simple. We try to use the right tool for the right job. And for us, Maya has been very adaptable and reliable for the projects we have worked on. It has many great features, such as the node-based workflows that allows for us to access specific data points on assets. I personally love nodes. I wish everything was nodes. Nodes, everything. I love them. So for now, we still prefer to use Maya for most of our work. One of the main reasons is that we want to be consistent with our partners and clients who also use Maya. Maya has a lot of mature and comprehensive interoperability with other software and industry standards. And I do personally find that Autodesk has a very good product management and essential feature support. So they have some good processes there that I'm quite happy with. In terms of the value add, in terms of like Maya and how we work, in our experience in working with bigger projects and bigger teams, our experience in working with them gives us a value add to our smaller partners and developers. That means that they can benefit from our expertise and guidance from what we've benefited from when we've been working on the bigger projects. But at the same time, for our experience in working on very creative and challenging projects. So for example, we do find that a lot of the smaller teams, you could say indie or the budgeted titles, they're taking more risks creatively, right? It's more challenging to get these to markets. So for the bigger studios, when they want a team to kind of be independent to help them to, contribute to the game without providing too much direction and feedback, this gives us a value add to our bigger partners who can learn from our willingness to take creative risks and innovate. I would say that we're in a unique and interesting position where we can offer this additional value to both our bigger and smaller partners. So to sum up, and what does that mean today? Our Neon Doctrine Studios initiative, this is like everything that we've done today, what we've been working with clients, our biggest partners, our smaller partners, using Maya, the workflow process allows us to create this, what we're calling kind of the Neon Doctrine Studios initiative. And it enables us to offer support and services to teams of various sizes, shapes, and creative ambitions. We can help them with IP creation, porting, code development, production, and even procedural asset generation. And that's my main responsibility on the development and production side. We're proud of, or at least I'm proud of, what we have accomplished in a very short time. If you look at when the team started and where we are today and the projects that they've been credited on, it's a huge achievement. And I'm really proud of them of sticking with us to get here today. And the trust that they've put into us at Neon Doctrine to assist in evolving our development and production processes so that we can boost the other studios and partners that we work with. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this presentation. And feel free to follow us on the socials. If you see us on Steam, if you got Steam, please wishlist a couple of our games, follow our page, give us 5-star reviews, the usual. This is really helpful, not just for us, but it's really helpful for the local teams, the Taiwan teams. It helps them to get recognized outside of Taiwan. So your support will mean a lot. And I'm happy to start taking questions.
好，那就是先在这边跟各位一样，就是稍微致歉一下，就是因为我们刚刚那个即时翻译的效果没有很好，所以我们就是途中先把它关闭了。那一样，我们就是后续会再把那个完整版的字幕上去。好，那现在就是各位如果有什么相关的问题啊，可以就是在这个问与答区做留言。然后我们目前是有一个问题，就是 right now we have one questions about it's like a more general questions that are there any entry barriers to get into the game industry or what kind of preparation can be made first based on your experiences?
Ooh, okay. It's going to be a long answer. I'll try to break it up for the translation. There's entry barrier to every industry, right? Actually, this is something I was talking about with Ray a couple of weeks ago, which is one thing I will say is it's very important to understand the fundamentals of art. We're in a very different industry now where we have AI tools, procedural workflows. It's changed a lot. Just let me know if I need to stop for you to translate.
Okay.
Okay.
好，所以就是因为刚刚 Solomon 的意思就是说，因为现在我们是处在一个蛮不一样的时代，就是现在有 AI 的东西，还有像他刚刚展示的一些parametric 就是参数化建程式的一些做法。
Yeah. So first off, on the base level, make sure you've got very good creative fundamentals.
OK， 就是他会建议说，一开始你要有一些跟创意有关的一些基础的培养，这样。
One of the things I always tell my artists when I'm hiring them is I don't hire them because they know how to use Maya. No, I don't hire them because they know how to use Substance Designer. No.
对，就是他目前在征才方面，就是软体的操作并不是他最主要的优先考量的选项。
Number one is I hire them for cultural fit. Can they fit within our values? Number two is their creativity. Some artists don't understand color theory. They don't understand composition. Some artists don't understand, the whole kind of artistic expression of why a character is created in such a way.
对，就是他目前比较会考量的点，就是第一个是他能不能，就是这位成员能不能跟他们公司啊，就是 Neon Doctrine 的文化做结合，还有就是关于创意发想的方式这样。
So creativity is very important. That doesn't mean technical skills is not. No, you definitely should have technical skills in the software. And there's no reason not to know now. We have YouTube, so many tutorials on YouTube, and there's some really good channels out there. And if you want, I can give Ray something and give some tips.
那他意思是说，就是也不是说软体的技能不重要，但是因为现在这些关于软体操作的技能，在网络上其实都很容易可以找得到。
And I'll give you context from my experience, right? So I've been in the industry for almost 20 years. Back then, there was no YouTube. And there was no courses to teach you games. You had to just learn it by yourself. And I actually did not start in games. I started in audiovisual post-production, working in advertising and post-production and visual effects.
因为他Solomon 先生他已经在这个产业已经大概20年的时间了。那他一开始也是其实表示说没有太丰富的学习资源经验，一切都是得靠自己去学。那他一开始的入行的产业其实也比较是跟影视制作啊后制合成相关的工作这样。
And then I decided that, oh man, I'm really passionate about games. I want to get in there. So I paid for myself to do a master's in game design theory. And then I just, studied games design, playing games, writing about games, making games, everything.
OK， 所以他也是从学校，就是他有去攻读一些跟游戏有关的学业这样子。
Yeah. And then when I graduated my master's, I actually didn't get a job in the games industry until maybe almost 2 years later.
就是他在攻读完就是游戏相关的学位之后，其实他也不是立刻就进到游戏产业，大概是2年后之后才有 机会这样。
Pretty scary, right? All I was doing was working on my portfolio, doing freelance audio, visual. I was working in an advertising company, doing the editing and post-production, and then working on my portfolio at night and getting lots of rejections.
就是他一开始在做这些影视相关的作品，虽然他也有做一些作品集，但是也会遇到一些就是没有被录取的状况这样。
Yeah, I was, I had a personal thing, which was every time I got a rejection, that same day, I would make sure that I applied to 2 new jobs. So for every 1 rejection, I applied 2 new jobs, and I would update my portfolio.
那他的做法就是他只要一被拒绝，他就立刻再多投2间，然后就是看着有没有一些新的东西可以更新到他的作品集里面。
Yeah, back then no one could teach you games. No one, there's not really anything. It's just difficult. But luckily enough, I got a job. 2 jobs came in at the same time. That was quite lucky.
所以他就在经过一些尝试之后，就是终于有2间公司可以有进去的机会。
And the funny thing was that when I learned, when I was doing my master's, I was being taught 3D Max. And when my first job came, they don't use Max, they use Maya. So I had to, on the job, learn Maya within 2 weeks.
就也是因为他在学校就学期间学的是3ds Max， 但是他第一份工作其实需要会的软体是 Maya， 所以也是边工作边开始学这样。
Yeah, that first game was Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. Yeah, that was for 3D environment, cars, props, PlayStation 2, PSP, GameCube, and the first Xbox and PC. Yeah.
他一开始的工作也是做一些 props 的东西
environments,
环境模型相关的作业这样。
Yeah. It's tough, but stick with it, and I won't say you can do it because that would be unrealistic, but I will say it's tough, and it's normal to not succeed the first time. This is normal.
所以Solomon 给了一些回馈，就是说，就是这个要进入这个产业并不是太容易的一件事情，那过程中也是会遇到一些困难这样。
But just go back to you, study the fundamentals of creativity, art, balance that with technical skills, use YouTube. There's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a really lot of good channels, Discord as well, Twitch has a lot of good live streams as well. There's a lot of stuff out there.
OK， 就是再回到他刚刚讲，就是可以先专注在一些创意养成，然后可能美感的培养。那关于软体操作的方面，就是都可以去看一些 YouTube 频道，甚至 Twitch 也有很多直播的内容可以去学习这样。
And the most important thing is just make stuff, make stuff, put it out there. Even if it's not good, it's okay. The process of making something, finishing it, you will get some lessons, and then you'll apply that to the next one, and just keep going.
就是也试着在自己可以掌控的时间内做一些自己的作品。那不管好或不好，就是试着可以去把它放到可能社群网站上啊，可以看一些别人的 comment 啊 critique， 就是回馈给你有什么建议这样。
Actually, some of the artists that you see for the procedural work that you saw here, right? Some of them were fresh graduates from the school. Some of them didn't even know how to use substances. Actually, the substance designer work I showed you, they didn't know how to use substance designer when they got to the company.
就刚 Solomon 现在展示的一些demo 的画面，其实有些都是从他刚才毕业的学生的作品，他就其实就可以做到这样的程度这样。
But we spend time with them. I spend time with them. We put an arm around the shoulder. We build them up gradually, and now I'm very proud of them. They are some very talented artists.
就是他们其实也是在进入公司之后才开始一步步的，就是在训练他们，然后带他们做出符合需求的作品，这样。
All Taiwanese, by the way.
然后都是国内的台湾的使用者的艺术家。Okay.
Yeah.
We got second question.
Oh yeah.
Lives in English.
Oh yeah.
We
Okay.
can direct look at it. 然后我看一下哦。
Which one is it?
This
one.
one.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I'm Eric, currently working.
然后我们现在第二个问题就是他是以英文提问，然后他是一个英国的3D 环境艺术家，然后他现在表示说他有兴趣想要回到亚洲 国家去工作，所以他的问题是，要怎么跟亚洲这个产业做连接？然后他害怕会遇到一些可能会被调派到又被调派到其他国家区域的问题，这样。
Okay, you just summarized it for them, right? I'll just summarize in English the question.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Merrick, nice to meet you. Thank you for attending the talk. I'm just going to summarize your question first, just to make sure I got it right. So you are working in the games industry in the UK, and you are thinking to come, relocate to Asia, but you're concerned about the feasibility, the challenges of coming to this region and working here. It's a very good question, and I've worked in like 4 or 5 different countries, so I totally understand. I moved from the UK to Amsterdam, Gritter Games. That was my first time, working overseas, and then to Hong Kong for 1 year, mainland China for 5 years, and then Taiwan for now 8 years, right? So I totally understand your concern. I would advise to definitely try to secure the job before you come here, because that can give you some sense of security, right? You don't want to fly here. And also, you would need, for most Asian countries, you would need to secure a working visa first before you come here. And then in terms of just getting used to the environment, it's a very different working environment in Asia. I think that, in my personal opinion, I do think that in Asia, there is a very good, strong work ethic in terms of how hard they work. For some companies in Taiwan and Asia, I think that maybe they're pushed too hard. I don't think it's fair. But that would be something that you would need to get used to. Of course, I see that you've got AAA experience, and I know that in the UK, they would have a slightly more balanced work-life approach. But I do imagine you might need to crunch, so maybe you are used to it. So I would say it's better for you to apply for jobs. And you can go to websites and LinkedIn. There's plenty of jobs being advertised, actually, in Asia. So I think you should be able to find it. And if you've been working on Fallout, you've got some good experience there already. So I don't see why not. Yes, you could fly here first, and you could try to look for a job here, but there's always a risk that it might take some time. I don't know if you've got family or friends here, you may need to pay for a hotel, that kind of stuff is additional expense. So personally, I would advise that look for a job, apply overseas. We've hired people from overseas before. So I know it can be done, and I know other companies have done it. So good luck, give that a shot.
Okay. Okay, our next question will be, he wants to know your thoughts about software choices. For example, why choose Maya, or why Blender, or why Cinema 4D? Especially, he wants to know your thoughts about Cinema 4D.
Oh, man. Yeah. So when one of the first 3D software I was using was Cinema 4D. This was before I went into games. So when I was doing kind of audiovisual and in the ad industry and doing kind of like motion graphics, my entry to 3D was Cinema 4D.
就Solomon先生说，他第一个在业界，因为他刚刚说他是在影视制作开始嘛，所以他那时候做的就是 Cinema 4D， 使用的就是 C4D 的软体。
You never forget your first, so it's got a soft spot for me. So Cinema 4D. So my thoughts about which software to use. Really depends on the project, really depends on the studio, really depends on the objectives that you're going for. So there's no wrong or right answer, to be honest, right? So it depends on your company's tool chain, tool sets, processes. That's the first part of my answer.
OK， 就是基本上就是没有什么正确的答案，就是看你要参与的专案，或者是你工作室的需求来决定说要使用什么样子的软体。
For software like 3ds Max, it's more a layer-based approach. Actually, in the latest updates of 3ds Max, they started to do more node workflow. Maybe
OK，
go ahead.
就他刚提的是以 3ds Max 来说，它 在近期的更新之后，它变得也比较是那种 node base， 就是节点式的工作流程。
So really way back a long time ago, actually, Maya was really node based. And so a lot of companies liked to use that because they could integrate that workflow into their tool chain, right? So that's sometimes a reason why they would do that, because of the connection they can create between Maya and the game engine.
OK， 就是 Maya 一直以来应该它也是比较是那种节点式的作业流程，所以也是蛮多工作室会喜欢使用的，因为它可能可以很快的跟其他的，比如说游戏引擎做联动这样。
But with something like 3ds Max, it's also good. I believe that in the early days, 3ds Max was much cheaper than Maya. And so a lot of studios prefer to use Maya or 3ds Max in the old days because of that price difference versus kind of impact that they would get on their projects.
说一开始可能有一些工作室比较喜欢用 Max， 可能会是比如说软体价格上的考量这样子。
Yeah, I mean, I can go on, but again, it really is depending on your project's kind of like, goals, long-term vision, right? And tool sets. Maybe your company has some old tools and they just don't have the resources available to transfer their tools from Max to Cinema 4D. And then to answer your question about Cinema 4D, actually, it's a totally viable thing to use for games as well. It's all about exporting, the export format. We have FBX, GLTF, right? For a USD that we're seeing. So you can, nowadays, you've got this export format and this really nice interoperability standard that is reducing the barriers of which software that you use.
OK， 就是一样，就是说，这个问题就是一样是看你的专案需求啦，还有公司的需求。那你要使用 C4D 也没有，其实以现在的状况来讲，没有太大的问题，因为可能输出格式都已经大家都资源的蛮完整的，所以就是也更降低了这个使用软体选择的这个困境，这样就是没有什么太大的问题。这样 OK。
Hopefully that answers your question.
OK, so our next question will be. He wants to know your thoughts on games like Guilty Gear. What's the potential for this type of 2D shading games, right?
Big fan of what they've done at the Guilty Gear franchise, Guilty Gear Strive and CERD. And I actually got to go to one of their GTC talks like almost 10 years ago. I actually also worked a little bit on Naruto Shippuden, which also uses a very 2D style shader. Worked on quite a few games that does that. I love them. I think that they do a great job of capturing that Japanese anime style while still making it look like it's 2D. The benefits of it being in 3D is that they can do things like change like the camera angles. They can do things like automating things like animation and stuff. So there's some of the good things they can do about it, right? So I really do love what Arc System Works have achieved with those kind of like tool sets. They're really, really good. CC2 is also another good company, Japanese CyberConnect too, sorry. And they do a lot of the earlier Naruto Shippuden ones. The later ones is done by, I forgot their name now. But anyway, I love them. I really think they're really, really cool. And we do have some things coming up that's very stylized. So definitely watch the news in the next couple of months.
简单总结一下，就是Solomon 很喜欢这一款游戏，他是大粉丝。那他最后的结论就是中间可能来不及翻译，他最后也是说，就是他们其实有一款新的游戏也会接近这样子的美术风格，所以应该是一样是还是有发展的潜力这样。You mean your new games, this type of?
Yeah, it's going to be similar. It's going to be similar like that. Yeah, yeah. We haven't announced it yet, but soon.
Okay. So the next question will be asking about is Neon Doctrine are using any AI type of support?
No and yes. So for the games that we work on and our clients, we don't use any AI kind of support. But some of our teams, their first language is not English. For some of the Taiwan teams, and sometimes they need help to translate the feedback or the interactions with our overseas partners.
好，就是以游戏开发的内容来说，目前是没有用到任何 AI 的技术，但是就是可能因为是他们的阶层是有一些不同国家，还有客户也是不同国家，所以他们可能会用 AI 的工具来协助，就是沟通翻译的部分这样。
And I'll just say why. And we already had a long conversation about this. I'll try and keep it short. Currently, the laws and regulations for AI usage around the world is formulating, and it's a risk. When I say risk, it's an opportunity, but it can also be dangerous.
好，就是因为刚好我们硬实力杂志下一期主题就是在谈论 AI 这件事情，所以我们其实也有先跟 Solomon 做一个采访。那时候他的观点就是说，目前因为所有全球的跟 AI 有关的法规都还在形成当中，所以目前来说使用上他会觉得会有一些风险。它虽然可能是一个机会，但是还是有一些风险存在。这样。
So for us, we do see the value and benefit of it, but we need to be careful.
对，就是他也是看到这个 AI 技术在游戏内的使用会有一些潜能，但是他目前是采取比较小心的措施。
For everyday artists, I understand their concern. The AI tools makes it easy for people to use their work without being paid or credited on it. And I understand that you don't know where your work's being used. It's unclear, it's uncertain.
好，因为就是现在 AI 技术展示出来的内容，就是大家可以比较快速、轻松的生成一些相关的内容，但是就可能使用上它还没有这么有把握去该怎么去应用这样。
But at the same time, there's different types of AI tools. It's very complicated. There's some tools that are very good at helping you just to do AI generated background. It's not using artists' work. So there's some things there's also AI tools to help you automate making a low poly, right? So there's benefits as well.
就是因为现在 AI 的工具真的是蛮多的，有些就是不管是它可以生成贴图啊，或者是生成低面数的模型，对，那是确实看起来确实是有蛮多好处的。
But for example, in Japan, they have a law or rule that if you use AI to generate any works, it's a copyright infringement.
对，那就他也有提到，就是目前日本其实有一些法规是说，如果你的可能游戏作品中有用到任何 AI 生成的东西，那你可能就会失去你的作品的版权。这样
Definitely fact check me, Google, check online. In the EU, I think in August or September, they're going to vote a law about the AI Act law to establish the rules and regulations of how people can use AI as a product.
对，就是他也鼓励，就是建议说大家可以上网查一下，就是 EU 就是最近可能前阵子有要立一个法，就是关于 AI 会该怎么被使用的规范这样。
And I believe there's a state in the US that if you generate works with AI, you cannot own the copyright of it. So go ahead.
OK， 就是美国其实也有某个州也有立，像刚日本这样子，就是你当中有用到 AI 的内容，那可能你就没有这个作品的所有权这样。
So imagine you just made this awesome piece of work with AI, and then you put it out there, but because you don't own the copyright, it means that someone can take that work and sell it as well. What do you do?
Yeah， 就是关于刚刚讲的，就是没有这个所有权的话，你可能很容易就被盗版啊，别人就可以拿你作品去使用这样。
Yeah, so just simple summary hinting down is that we have to respect the artists, definitely. We have to make sure that we can protect them and their rights. But there is benefits to AI, but we need to be responsible.
对，就是它目前就是 AI 确实有蛮大发展的潜力，然后就是如果未来就是一些相关的法规更成熟之后，它其实也应该是不会排斥使用的这样子。
That's a good question. Okay, good question.
Okay. Okay, our next question will be, I think it's a more like a previous question about how you about the creativity, how you maybe inspire your employees about how they can be using their creativity in their work.
Yeah. Okay, so definitely one of the things that I always encourage my employees to do is look outside of games. the problem that I see a lot of the younger generation is that when they talk about games, they talk to look at another game that did this and another game that did this, but they're not quite taught about how did that game get there. For example, oh, I'll let you choose this.
Okay. Sorry, can you say one more time?
So the first thing that I like to teach my artists or employees is to not look at other games. Sorry, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
Sorry. The problem that I see with the younger generation today is that when they want to make something or create something, they may refer to another game.
对，就是他现在会鼓励他的成员，就是如果他们想要做游戏或者是做相关的内容，就不要去参考到其他游戏 ，don't reference from other games, right?
Yeah. So I'll try to explain a bit better. Sometimes some people or the younger generation, they'll say they will make this because this game made it.
Okay.
This way.
Okay.
Right.
就是不要跟其他游戏做类似的事情。
Right. So let's take for example, right? The Guilty Gear example. That's 2D, right? So people might say, "Oh, that looks really cool. I want to make that 2D." But how did they get there? They got there because they look at the Japanese anime and look at Japanese manga. And how did the Japanese manga get there? They got there because this was an art form and style that they developed over the years.
对，就是他举刚那个 Guilty Gear 的范例，就是他们这样子2D 美术风格到底是怎么做到的？就是不要去看他们做出这个成品，而是应该想说他们怎么去办到这件事情。那他就是回推说，因为日本的 anime 的 style 就是已经是有一个很稳定的、很成熟的文化的发展，所以导致他们变成就是可以做出这样风格的游戏。
And there's so many different anime styles. When you start to break it down and you look at some of the famous anime manga artists out there, there's different styles within that. Why choose that one? Why not another one?
就是也要去思考，为什么你决定要走这个风格的美术，而不是去看看其他？其实还有很多不同风格的美术这样。
So I always encourage artists to understand the fundamentals of the art style, where it came from.
Sorry again.
Oh, I always encourage artists to understand the fundamentals of the art
就
style.
是他会鼓励他的成员们去了解说这个美术风格背后形成的原因是什么，这样。
Okay, I haven't finished. I still got more.
Okay.
Okay. So that's on the art style, understanding art styles, art movements, art history, and how they came about.
对，就是去了解这个风格它的历史，然后它是怎么演变的，这样。
Okay, now let's talk about a little bit technical. Oftentimes, I've seen this so many times in my years. An artist might make a really nice model texture, and they have for example, metal in the model. Maybe it's a mech, and it's got metal arms.
还有就是他sorry.
Yeah. So oftentimes I've come across this that artists they make a really good model. So for example, let's use a mech robot, for example.
就是他会看到一些艺术家有做出很漂亮的那种机械臂甲的东西。
And I'll ask them, and I'll say, "Hey, what is this material?"
然后就是那它上面的材质是什么呢？
And they'll tell me, they'll say, "Oh, it's metal."
可能对方只简单说就金属这样。
I say, "What type of metal?"
然后就问什么样的金属，什么类型的金属。
And then oftentimes they'll think and they go, I'm not sure. I don't know what is the metal. I just did metal.
OK， 就是他的意思说，这些他们可能当下做完，其实是没有很认真去发想，说这个材质到底是什么样的金属，这样，所以他有点回答不出来。
Is it aluminum? Is it steel? Is it gold? Is it iron? Is it anodized? Is it rusted?
是铝啊、铁啊，还是黄金，还是它有没有被风化等等的之类的。
So when I conclude, I always say, if you do not know what it is, don't make it.
好，他总结就是，如果你没有去研究说这个东西是什么，你要去稍微了解它才去做，不要什么都不知道就做出来，就这样。
You will make it wrong.
所以这样就很容易会有错误的状况发生。
So going up a higher level now, always try to do research into what you're working, what you're making. Like spend a little bit of time, research it, understand how was it made.
就是做之前可以多做一些研究，就是这个你要做的东西，它的背后的成因或原理是什么样子的。
I always like to spend time to understand the science behind things. Like, okay, how is this anodized metal made? I will look for a YouTube video, understand exactly the process, how it's made, like really get down deep, understand even the basic things before we make it.
OK， 就是一样去研究，可能从 YouTube 上一些影片做一些研究，这样去了解那个可能材质的形成这样。
And then the last part, of course, to creativity is to make stuff, right? Like put it out there, make, experiment, try new things.
OK， 然后因为我这边先说明一下，因为那个我们预计就是4点半会结束，那我们问题就先以尽量看可不可以回答到剩下的问题，然后我这边就先不做即时翻译，一方面可能时间会拉比较长，二方面可能我怕我翻译的没有那么准确，那后续我会再把这个正确的 Q&A 的一样会上字幕，这样给各位这样。So I will do not any translation right now.
Okay.
So you can just reply the answers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the next question will be, he would like to know in your team, are they all came from with technical backgrounds or artistic background? Or if not, were there any challenge to get into the game industry?
So in our team, was there anyone that had any technical or creative background? And if not, what was the challenges for them to get into the industry? Some people, it varies. Some people had really great experience, really good technical background. They've been in the industry for a while. They were in animation film. Some people, they had they just graduated. And then there were some people that actually already made their own indie game. And I was like, oh, you guys are pretty good. I want to hire you. So for the ones that had no experience, the barrier to entry was the learning the technical side. I remember, someone didn't even know about UVs and we had to explain the concept of UVs. And then for some of the ones that are more experienced, maybe the barrier was getting used to my management style, as well as like working with different cultures, because we do work with many people overseas. But we try to give them a chance, right? Not everybody can like hit the ground running, and you just need to give them some time, space, trust, and support.
Okay. The next question is, are there any special considerations for students in the game studio just start out?
Okay. Yes. Well, when you say special considerations, I'm assuming that you're just starting out, right? Yes. It's tough. Making games is tough, and there's so many games being released today, right? So I think the first thing you need to understand is to manage your expectations, because let's just take Steam, for example. Steam on is it monthly or weekly basis? You need to fact check me. There's like 5,000 games released per month. 5,000. You can play 5,000 in a month. Come on. So you definitely need to manage your expectations. The competition is very, very tough. And only 10% of people, 10% of teams manage to make it in Steam. 10% of all games. That's a small amount. So I don't mean to scare you. I just want you to just kind of manage the expectation. Now, with that said, it may be the first time you're making a game as a student. It may be the first time that you're working with each other as a team. And it's going to be the first time that you're making a company, because you need a company to be able to release your games. So many first-time things. So, try to structure your team and your workflow so that it doesn't rely on your first game being a success, because it's not normal for your first game to be success. Try to make it so that, hey, you've got enough funds, you've got enough runway so that you can release a third game, because by making games and releasing games, you can get better. So it's important that you understand that your first game may not be a success, not because it's a bad game. No, it can be the best game, and if it didn't get the right marketing or support, it can be difficult. There can be so many things that affect it. So I'm happy that you're doing it. Good luck, and just try to find some people that can give you some good advice. Understand that failing is okay. It's normal. Don't worry. Like maybe in Asia culture, it can be a bit more pressure. I understand, but I want you to hear this from me that it's okay if you don't succeed in your first game. It's really, really hard, but keep trying.
Okay, I think it's Merrick again.
Okay.
The question is a bit long. I think you can take it.
Merrick. Okay, it's Merrick. This is actually I originally
asking about the visa stuff.
What? Sorry. Thanks so much for mentioning communicating. You can take this professional experience about crunch, and you get more by question on my question. You can say that's been strong and take Hong Kong different for gaming companies that might limit in considering applying to position Taiwan and China too. It's possible that obtaining a visa might be more streamlined these two countries. By the way, I think we're great for your assistance. All right, hey Merrick. Yeah, I just read your question, and I see that you're asking me a bit more details. Thank you for sharing with me more information about your situation. It's good to hear that you don't have to crunch too much. That's great. And also, I can see that you're passionate, that you're working very hard on your portfolio. I worked in Hong Kong for a year, so I understand the situation a little bit for what you're saying, and also mainland China. The market in mainland China for games is much bigger than Hong Kong, and they've got some very big games companies there, some very good talents. But obviously, the style and the working style of making games in China is also very different from UK. In Taiwan, it's not as big a market, but I would say that in terms of the working style and environment and the passion, there's some really good studios and teams here. So if you can find it, that would be great. Taiwan, unfortunately, doesn't have that many AAA studios. A lot of them will work on mobile games. And there are some smaller indie studios, but maybe it cannot be the salary that you're looking for, unfortunately. The salary level is lower here, unfortunately. I wish it can be higher. We do try to improve that as well. But other companies can be very, aggressive on that. So Taiwan has some great companies, definitely. It's worth to apply here, definitely. I think the industry has a lot of potential. China also has some companies as well, but they're bigger, more corporate, so very different working style. Hong Kong, not as much. And yeah, I personally was not satisfied with when I was in Hong Kong, but it's just a smaller market. That's why. Hope that answers your question.
Okay. Okay. Our next question is, I think he's a bit like you. He used to be working in visual post-production workflow, but recently he moved to game industry. So he would like to ask about the way working for game and the difference between working for game and the animation industry. Do you have any suggestion?
Only a little bit, because I didn't work in animation. I was mainly doing motion graphics, advertisement, creative ad agencies, right? But of course, I have friends, and I've worked with animation studios and VFX studios, even as games, because we have cutscenes sometimes that we need to collaborate with them on. In the animation industry, at least in the West, and from what I know of or what I've been told, they have more mature process for managing the project in a more detailed way, tracking the time, tracking the minutes. I would say that for the games industry, it's a lot more younger industry. Only like since 1970, 1980, actually, Space Machine. Yeah, 1970s is when the games industry came about, but animation's been around longer. So in terms of our games industry, process and maturity for project management and communication, we're not as mature as the animation and film industry. They have much more robust tool sets. and standardized workflows. So I would say, if I summarize it, the difference would mainly it's mainly on kind of project management processes. In terms of the art quality benchmark, I think they're getting closer and closer. Workflows are overlapping more and more. So we're going to get to a point where there's not that much, difference. You saw some of the work from my team that could so easily be in a cutscene in some movies even. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, I think the last question will be, is want to know the 2D illustration, are they related to game industry?
Oh yeah,
a lot.
Oh, 100%. A lot of times you'll need to kind of visualize the idea. I always am a big fan of pen and paper visualization, sketching it out, drawing it out, even no matter if it's level design, cutscene sequences, even the gameplay mechanic idea. Pictures, as the saying goes, pictures paint 1,000 words. And if you can draw and communicate well visually, it can actually help communicate some things. So definitely pre-production, it helps, production, it helps. 2D's never going away.